No, we have had this discussion so many times. The health of infrastructure is quite important. Can you talk a bit about what you have seen through your customers that what are the most common infrastructure health issues that you have seen and how they can be mitigated to achieve optimal performance?
Infrastructure health issues, a lot of times if you're on-prem, you're hosting your own data center, we touch on it a lot in technology spaces. It's making sure that systems are current and up to date. That's often a cause that we see is where a system is running a much older operating system. The patch levels haven't been kept in sync. And so just from the software standpoint, you're several revisions behind, you're missing several updates. And so that continues to cause problems in the infrastructure itself. But you also, if you're on-prem, you have the concern about how old is your hardware, how often have you done a hardware refresh, what about your network devices and switches? Are those new? Are they modern? Are they up to date? Are they correctly configured? And so those all play into the health of the infrastructure. When you start thinking about cloud architecture, obviously you don't have insight into how new or how old that underlying host is that you're paying services for. But there are some health infrastructure components that you should be aware of in the cloud, and we see commonly, and that's simply the same operating systems that are running older patch sets and patch levels, and so they need to be updated. Incorrect architecture in the cloud, so not understanding how to best utilize your cloud infrastructure can cause problems where you see health degradation in the applications themselves, simply because you're running on new modern host and hardware in the cloud, but you haven't actually optimized to use or take advantage of that. So it's possible you have modern infrastructure, but you have an old architecture, and that causes some health issues that you see. Another one that is very common in high availability environments or complex landscapes is where your infrastructure as a whole, individually pieces are healthy, but as a collective whole, they're under optimized or unhealthy. And that could be because you have a complex system, and somewhere within that chain, you have a system that's under provisioned. And so it's not able to actually perform, and it becomes a bottleneck for the other systems in your environment. And that creates a performance problem, and it can be identified, but sometimes it can be very tricky because you see, for example, if you're in a high availability environment where you're replicating data, you're seeing issues and you think that the performance problem is with the database on your primary, but it could actually be caused by the fact that you have an under-provisioned target server, or you don't have the right IOPS on the data disk on that target system. And so as you're replicating data, you're seeing the health and performance of both the target system, the primary system, the database, and the applications using that database suffer because of that bottleneck. And so I would say do a health check. Look at the components within your system and look at where you feel like you're not achieving optimal performance. And then honestly assess, is that because of the design, the architecture, or the infrastructure? And then make targeted experiments with measurements to see if you can improve that performance. Just one thing to just keep in mind, if you're not seeing advertised performance levels, it's a great conversation starter with your vendor to understand, okay, this is what's advertised. Why am I not seeing the advertised performance levels? And then that gives you a chance to work with the vendor to make improvements and enhancements and actually get better performance. Don't just walk away because you thought you were supposed to get one type of performance and then out of the box you didn't see what you thought you should be seeing. Have a conversation with the vendor, and they can oftentimes help you understand the difference between your environment and the recorded levels, and then make tunings and optimizations for your workloads to get the better performance that you're looking for.